Hello, my name is Harold Lapidus, and welcome to the Boston Herald podcast. My very special guest today is Mr. JORMA KAUKONEN, someone whose career I followed since I was a teenager. If you're already here, you probably already know the basics, but for everyone else, here's a quick summary. Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. He was at Monterey and Woodstock and Altamont, lead guitarist for the Jefferson Airplane. He also founded with Jack Cassidy Hot Tuna. A few years ago, he published this awesome memoir, which after I bought it, I then got the audiobook so I can hear you tell the story as well. It's a great book and I highly recommend it. Jorma does his own audiobook reading. And they also come with the exclusive Jorma music, which is cool. He's founded the Fur Peace Ranch in Ohio, and some amazing musicians have taught and performed there. He also sells some CBD products on his website, and as well as a quarantine mask, which a friend of mine, Rob, wears to work. During quarantine, he's been performing weekly Saturday concerts from the ranch, and as well as posting some archival stuff. He has an excellent new album with John Hurlbut called The River Flows, which gets its title from this awesome opening 10-minute version of The Ballad of Easy Rider, written by Roger McGuinn and then uncredited Bob Dylan. And as a friend of mine pointed out, that phrase is also in Across the Borderline. And if you love Jorma's acoustic music like Water Song or Choir, any of that classic stuff, you're going to love this album. It's awesome. And I heard there might be another one in the pipeline. And he's going back on tour and he's going to be in New England pretty soon in New Hampshire. So welcome, Jorma.
Well, thanks for having me. You made me sound very important. Thanks a lot.
You recently celebrated your 80th birthday with a quarantine concert, which, as I said, has been on broadcast on the YouTube channel. And there were testimonials from David Bromberg and Larry Campbell, Tom Rush, and of course, Jack Cassidy. So a belated happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much.
There was I guess my favorite testimonial was there was a parents of a daughter who was inspired. She covered Hesitation Blues and Sawyer McCabe's. Would you mind telling that story?
Yeah. So this gal, she came to a show with her dad, and her dad is the actor that plays Booger in what is it? Not Porky's, but I don't know. I'd have to look it up. My mind is a porous sieve, but he was like an actor he was in Better Off Dead and all this kind of stuff. And so, but this just gal, and he had sent me somehow I'd gotten a something online of her playing Hesitation Blues, and I was playing in McCabe's in L.A. And I was so impressed by the way she did the song, and I got to talking about it, and she was in the audience, and I didn't know that. So I met her parents, really really sweet folks, and we sort of we kept in touch. She was like only 14 years old at the time, but we kept in touch, and she was mentored by a bunch of people that her dad knew that wrote and stuff like that. And she went, to make a long story short, she's gone through graduate school. She lives in England. She's a writer. I mean, to be able to touch somebody's life in a way like this, it's really good stuff. And when people ask me, as an old guy, what do you value most in your experiences in life? I go, well, aside from my kids and my family, it's being able to touch people's life in some small way to be a part of that journey.
Um, that will come up again in this interview a little bit. So this new album, The River Flows, it's with someone named John
John Hurlbut, yeah.
Hurlbut. I'm sorry. And the album has a really this wonderful organic quality. It's you guys playing guitars. And I just want to, if you could just talk about how that album came to be, and
Sure.
good.
Well, it's definitely, it was definitely an outgrowth of to be able to do the album was an outgrowth of us all being quarantined. But But Johnny and I have been friends for gosh, for 40 some years. You know, I met him way before I moved to Ohio. He promoted some shows. He owned a record store. We just became buddies, and he's been working for us here at the ranch for the better part of 2 decades. And you know, for every now and then we get a Vanessa, my wife Vanessa has a great idea. We've got a kitchen. Let's do something. So we did Vietnamese. We did faux dinners, and we've done panini dinners and all this stuff. And Johnny and I, we looked at it. Since we're here, let's play for the lunch crowd. So we started 4 or 5 years ago. We just started actually playing. Our thing was we'd never rehearse. I'd just go throw something at me, and we'd play it. And the more, and I'd played with him off and on over the years, but we really, we'd been friends for so long that when we started playing together on a more or less regular basis, we just developed, in a way, the same kind of intuitive musical friendship that Jack Cassidy and I have. And so, and one of the things that I loved about doing it is I was able to back away from my normal Yorma persona. I mean, I love what I do and what Jack and I do and all this kind of stuff, but that I'm the front man, and that's the thing. But to be able to play, to add lead and accompanying stuff to what Johnny does reminded me what I was able to do with the airplane. And it freed me. It was incredibly liberating in a non sort of liberating time. So it was like a win-win situation. And so we'd been doing these things, and I got to thinking, let's do an album. We've got the facility here. I've got great sounding rooms. And we got my buddy Justin Gwip, who's Larry Campbell's production partner, and he also plays drums and hot tunas, and he has a studio. So I called him up and go, look, I got this great idea. And before Justin could come down from Woodstock with his studio in a van, Johnny got to talking with this guy Ed Frank that we buy product from Culture Factory, which is a French label that does high end reproductions of 60 records. Like they did Jefferson Airplane, they've done Hot Tuna, they do all kinds of stuff. Very, very high quality stuff, vinyl and all this kind of nonsense. And so he was talking to Ed, and Ed goes, how would you guys like to be on our label? We're going, well, yeah, we'd really like to be on any label, but especially yours. And so, you know, I joke about this, at this point in my life, Hot Tuna would have a lot of trouble getting signed to a label. Not impossible, but to get somebody to put the effort into the production that Culture Factory did. The 12 Cage booklet, the splatter vinyl, both vinyl and CDs and all, and just the high quality and just great stuff all the way down the line. So all of a sudden, we cut this record in 2 days. We did 14 songs. I don't think we ever did more than 3 takes on any song, and mostly they were the first take that we did. And we just said the guitars are not plugged in. It's just two guys in a room with great microphones and that stuff, and just playing music. And it was such a completely liberating thing. It would have been liberating at any time, but in this particular moment, it was especially so.
And there's also this excellent video by Bob Sarles, who has done a lot of great stuff, including a Michael Bloomfield documentary.
Listen, I'm going to quickly interrupt you because the porousness of my mind. Curtis Armstrong is the name of the actor, and it was killing me. Curtis Armstrong, a great guy, and like I said, and his daughter, who's now a full-grown adult. Amazing stuff. Anyway, yeah, go on with what you were saying.
Right. So Bob Sarles did this excellent video for the Ballad of Easy Rider, and as I said, he's done Raven films. There's a whole history of great.
Yeah, Bob is he's really super. Yeah.
So I believe if I remember correctly, on one of the quarantine shows, you were talking about with Vanessa about the video. It shows you on a motorcycle, and it was taken on a pretty special day.
Yes. So we were, yeah, gosh, that was in 2001. So Bob and his video team came by. We were just going to shoot some stuff. I don't even remember what the thrust of the project was, but we had just shot those motorcycle scenes, and then we were getting ready to come together and shoot some more. That was the morning of 9/11 in 2001. So that was pretty much it for that project. But at that moment, But Bob, you've mentioned Bob. He does some I mean, he's just a great documentary. He's a great filmmaker, and he had all that stuff in the can. And when he came out of the woodwork and just said, "Let me do this for you," we were so blessed and flattered for him to make a really great little piece with our song.
Yeah, they'll be embedded in the article
Right.
that goes along with this. Um, uh, so there are some interesting cover versions. There's Across the Borderline, Ry Cooder,
Sure.
Gene Clark's Kansas City Southern, People Get Ready, the famous Curtis Mayfield song. And then there are a couple songs by someone named Spencer Boren. I'm not sure how you
Spencer
pronounce it.
Bourne. Yeah.
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 And
I'm so glad you mentioned him because I'm just going to quickly jump in before you. So whatever you're thinking, don't try not to forget it. Spencer passed away in 2019 from cancer, but he's one of these guys you need to look into also because he just was such. I mean, first of all, he's a wonderful, wonderful man, but he was just a great talent. And I say this all the time. I'm going to say it again. If there's any justice in the musical world we live in, everybody would know about him because he was such a huge talent. Just check him out. You'll see what I mean. And so he wrote two of the songs that we did on this record. In fact, we dedicated the record to him because it just seemed like the right thing to do.
all right, so I want to set the Wayback Machine to early 1970s.
Absolutely.
So I was too young to experience much of the airplane in the 60s. Although I bought the Woodstock album, and of course, one of the great highlights is
Right.
Volunteers, the Morning Maniac music.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
so um, so I got into the airplane in the early 70s. I had a friend named Keith Felsh, who's the only cool kid in my grade. He had like Grand Funk records and Traffic records, and he had where is it? This one.
There it is. Bark.
Yep, which is that's where I came in. It's my favorite Jefferson Airplane album. It has a lot of your I didn't know anything about what was going on really with the airplane and the starship and the tuna and everything kind of Marty leaving. Yeah, I didn't know any of that stuff. There's as people our age say, it's like, well, there was no internet back then, and how are we supposed to find out?
How did we get along?
And anyway, so I just love that album. And we didn't have Marty. Marty was gone, but we had Papa John Creech on
Yeah.
electric violin, which I didn't even know was a thing until I bought the record. And so the what I one thing I wanted to talk about it. I mean, back in those days, yeah, I know the new album that you did has great packaging, but it came in a shopping bag. It had all these great illustrations. It had lyrics. I mean, it was just awesome, and it was just those like when I would start buying records around that time. It was a glorious thing, and as I said, the new album you have has a similar care to it.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. Yeah.
if you, I'm not sure how much you. How did the Jefferson Airplane even decide to do that? I mean, this is the first one on Grunt Records, your own label, but
Yeah.
it must have been quite a discussion to even come up with such a wonderful idea.
The airplane was such a delightfully wacky bunch of people. And one of the things that Jack and I pat each other on the back is Hot Tuna has never had a band meeting ever. The airplane had them all the time, and that's one of the least pleasant aspects of the airplane. But one of the most pleasant aspects of the airplane is creatively we gave each other incredible latitude. So whenever somebody came up with an idea, well, let's have a brown paper bag and Grace will scribble all over it. I mean, we go, well, yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, the sky was the limit for doing stuff like that, and that was the real strength, I think, of the airplane in our magical years. Um, was the fact that when it counted artistically, we worked together. Now, you've mentioned Bark, but I'm going to back up just a little bit to Volunteers
Mhm.
because for some reason, I don't even know why, I started listening to that album again, and the song "We Can Be Together." I understand that some of my aging cronies, well, the political philosophy is so impressive. Never mind all that stuff. It's a great piece of writing. And aside from the fact that I'm a proud part of it, that song and the dynamics and all the part, the music is really unbelievable. It's like, I don't write stuff like that, and I never would have. To be able to work with a bunch of artists like that that could put together such an incredibly diverse piece in that one song, to me, is really unbelievable. Anyway, I got sidetracked there, but I just had to say that.
Um, that reminded me of something which I haven't. Do you know anything about the quadraphonic version of Volunteers with different mixes or solos or
I
anything like that?
do. I do have a copy of that, and it's still in shrink wrap because I never had a quad player.
Um, so uh, and when I was you doing some research online, so there were a couple of things that came up. One is that you did around the time of Bark, you recorded with Little Richard.
So Joey Covington got Little Richard involved in something, and this is one of these things. You'd think it'd be right on top of my head, but it's not. I just know that we did. I mean, looking back on it, because Little Richard was such a profoundly moving character in my youth coming into rock and roll. He was an important figure. I mean, and I might note he's not a guitar player, and he was still an important figure. I mean, he just was. But we got involved with these people. It's almost like I took it for granted. Yeah, we're doing a session with Little Richard today. I mean, really, you know.
Um, and again, something that wasn't on the original credits, but a couple of guys of Santana played on the album. On
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think Mike Shreve might have been on. I should know this stuff.
well,
I,
according to the internet, it's Carlos Santana and Mike Shreve on "Pretty as You Feel."
yeah, I was right. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I was just, Carlos. Hey, Carlos, is that doing anything right now? Want to play in a song? Come on in.
Um, and so, and the next album, which was the last original Jefferson Airplane album, was Long John Silver, which also
Right.
had a crazy cover, which I put together. I
Rip
didn't do it.
Torn. Rip Torn. May he rest in peace.
Um, so I had a Trial by Fire, which is still a staple of your sets usually.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
And the last song was this odd song called "Eat Starch Mom," where you wrote the music and Grace wrote the lyrics,
Yeah,
and
and we used the term "wrote loosely."
it's just odd. I just wanted to, for those of you who don't know it, it appears to be this like anti-health food rant, and it's
You
like,
know, again, we were just such wise asses, really. And all that being said, given the time that was, we all, we were ahead of the curve with organic food and all that stuff. I don't know where I came up with this line at one point. I forget. I think it might even made it to an album somewhere, a cover somewhere. I don't care about the DDT as long as my lettuce is crisp or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were just being wise asses, plain and simple. Now, the bad news about that is that once you do something like that, it lives forever, and then we have to talk about it. But but I remember um, we did the Eat Star Mom thing. I think it started as just as a jam, and we were in the studio a lot, so we recorded everything. And then Grace, God bless her, came up with the lyrics.
Um, and another thing I want to talk about, which is uh, as you're probably aware, they're going to have a new version of the Beatles Get Back sessions with the rooftop. And the Jefferson Airplane did that a couple months
Hey,
beforehand. Which that if you follow your career, you know this happened, but it's not. I don't think it's widely known. Do you want to talk about that?
yeah, sure. So we got involved with yeah, we were all big fans of Jean-Luc Godard, and for some he was going to do this movie. I forget what he was going to call it, One or something like that. It's lost in antiquity, but in any case, so they wanted to shoot this scene. I think D.A. Pennybaker might have been shooting the movie. I forget. No, I forget. It's on the internet. You have to look up the guy shooting the movie. But anyway, so we're on this hotel roof. They set everything up, the PA, and Marty yells, can we swear on on this thing?" Can we use profanity on this
On this?
conversation? Yeah.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay. So I think he goes, "Good morning, New York. Wake up, you fuckers," or something like that. And then we start playing. Uh, that was cool. We had everything all set up. It's freezing cold, of course. Jack is wearing one of the ladies' fur coats, and freezing cold. We're playing. One of the things we neglected to do was to get a permit to do this. So we're playing. They filmed. We got through the whole song. It was a long song. We got down. Cops everywhere, and I remember they said, "Who's the leader of this band?" And we all pointed at Marty. He is. So it all worked out. But yes, yes, my Beatle loving friends, we did it first.
and
Funny stuff, man. You can't make that stuff up, really.
and there was something. There's a picture of Paul McCartney with the Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah. So it was early on. I'm guessing it was 65, 66 at the latest. I'd be hard pressed to come up. Jack and Marty were sharing an apartment on Fell Street. And for some reason, Paul McCartney came to San Francisco. There's a picture of this floating around of us sitting in the room with him. And I remember Jack called me up, "Hey, come on over. Paul McCartney's here." Well, Paul McCartney. And I just remember it just being a real nice guy. And we just sat around and I'm we probably smoked some pot. I can't swear to that, but I'd be surprised if we didn't.
Well, the statute of
And
limitations are over by now.
right, they are. Yeah, it's legal in San Francisco anyway, so who cares?
Right.
But anyhow, yeah. So there we were, and it's like once again, you can't make that stuff up. I mean, we were just starting out. We were sort of like locally known, but really we were just kind of like wacky San Franciscans, and there was Paul McCartney.
Um, so um, so the first time I saw Hot Tuna was in 1976. The star, and I also saw the Starship that year too. That's that summer with the tour with Jeff Beck.
Right.
They were about to build an entire city on rock and roll, but they hadn't gotten around to
Yes.
it. It was a September 70. It was in Comac, Long Island, the Long Island Arena. I saw you in
Yes,
September,
The Suffolk County Forum.
right? And again, again in the following April, I went to see you again. And these shows are like over 4 hours, and it was the home of the Long Island Ducks hockey team.
Right.
And it was general admission, and I heard from my friends like, "You got to get in line early," So we'd get in line like 3 PM and hang out with all the older hippies and everything. And it was general admission, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. And I wanted to be close up to watch your fingers to see how to play these songs. And that's basically what happened. I was up against the railing, and I was saying, "Well, keep your lamps trimmed and burning. It seems to be, E minor to D, and with about 4 or 5 songs, I was able to kind of remember and do it. So you're talking about early on about touching people's lives, so it helped me with my guitar playing. But every once in a while, I think even last time I saw you in Fall River, you still bring up that place, the Comac Arena in concert. It's almost like
Oh
you have
yeah.
PTSD about it. Was it a fun play? What kind of experience was that?
Well, listen. In everybody's defense, it was the '70s, so we'll start out. That's our disclaimer. I mean, if you've been to the Suffolk County Forum, then you remember what a wacky place it was. I mean, it was just insane. I mean, I remember after a show when you drive away, the sound of Jack Daniels bottles crunching under the tires of your car as you left. I mean, it was a big party. Everybody was partying heavily back then. It was a big party, and the energy was incredible. Long Island has always been sort of like a second home to us in some way, anyway. And the Suffolk County Forum was it was nuts. I mean, there's just no other way to say that.
Um, I'm mostly known for writing about Bob Dylan and so on. So I want to ask you a couple of questions about that.
Sure.
I saw the 1999 tour with Phil and Friends and
Right,
Bob Dylan,
right.
which those shows are like possibly the hottest Dylan shows I've ever seen. I've seen
Yeah,
plenty, and Phil as well. And I saw the Dead,
right.
throughout the years. Um, and you appeared at a couple of those shows.
I did, yeah.
Do you have any particular memories or stories about?
Sure. So I was briefly one of Phil's friends back in the Phil and Friends eras. Bob Dylan, I mean, he certainly doesn't need a testimonial from this old guitar player, but he's such an interesting guy, really. I mean, there's no. I just got his new record. His new.
Rough
I
and
mean,
Rowdy Ways.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just obviously one of the great writers of my generation, no question about it. Now, I will say, I will say that there are certain ones of his records that are my favorites because they're part of the soundtrack of my life. Blonde on Blonde, I was there. It was then. I mean, that to me, that's my go-to record for Bob Dylan. But I like all his stuff. I always like to see what he's up to. So anyway, so on this particular show, Bob had um, Larry Campbell was playing and Charlie Sexton.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob's bands are always top drawer. They always are. And the first time I met those guys, and I remember they asked, I got to sit in uh, on Highway 61 on one of those shows, and it was such an honor. But to back up with the Dylan thing, when Dylan was first coming up, and I was like, with his first record, the first record in that time period, as a finger picking guitar player, I immediately looked at askance at what it was that he did. But I saw him at a show back in 1960. I saw him at a show in I think it was in New Haven somewhere. And when I saw him live, I got it. I totally got it. Um, and and that memory stuck with me since then. To see a solo performer just mesmerize a crowd like he was capable of doing back then. I mean, that was just such a rare thing to see. It's just unbelievable. So yeah, Bob Dylan, what an interesting guy. And I did get a chance to tune in. I was on the road, and that show, the series of shows he did on
The Theme
satellite
Time
radio.
Radio Hour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. I mean, the theme shows that he did.
Hmm.
I mean, again, I've never really actually heard him talk. I mean, to hear him hold my attention because we were driving endless drives in my truck, so I listened to a bunch of those shows. What a lucid guy! I mean, really, it's just like holy mackerel. I wish I had a box set of those shows. I'd listen to them over and over again. Anyway,
Uh,
anyway, to
uh,
get back to your thing, yeah. So I guess it was '99 or so. It was I
yeah.
forget
The
what it
fall of
was. Yeah,
1999.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first time. That's the first time I met Warren Haynes. Also, I remember he was on. So yeah. Those were. I mean, if you look back at it, those were good shows.
Yeah, to say the least. And also, you saw Dylan at a Monterey Folk Festival or something in '63, or is that the way you
No,
were
I
talking?
saw no. That was it was actually in New Haven. Now, one of my guys
No,
is a fact check. I thought it was the New Haven Folk
no.
Festival. One of my fact checking friends. No, it was something else. I don't
Okay.
know. But that would have been in 1960 actually.
Oh, night
And,
white.
and,
That's
and
way
yeah,
back.
oh, it was very early. And that's the one. That's the show I'm talking about
Oh,
where
I
I
see.
got when I saw him live. I went, I get it. This is really cool.
Um, and there's something that's in your memoir. You mentioned uh, I think Marty Ballin knew some guy, Matthew Katz, and he was offering a
Right,
couple of Dylan songs or something like that.
right.
And he said it was too good to be true. Um, did that, did
Well,
anything happen with those Dylan songs or anything?
no. But yeah, but this guy Matthew, he pronounced his name Cates. As a Jew myself, I would be suspicious of any Jew that pronounced cats as Cates, but we're not going there right now. He wound up being our manager, and many lawsuits ensued from that thing. But yes, to give Matthew some credit, he did bring two Dylan songs. I think one of the songs he brought was "Lay Down Your Weary Tune," and we just got sidetracked. I don't know.
Um, and that's something that it didn't hit me till I learned more about Al Schmidt. But Al Schmidt produced a bunch of your
Oh
records,
my
and he is
gosh.
like, go ahead. But yeah, he's
Yeah.
something that most music that he does is not Jefferson Airplane type music. He has it, and but of course he produced a lot of your records, and I want to know if you have any stories about him.
Well, Al Schmidt is, he's one of the greatest producers I personally have ever had, and I've met a lot of them. I've had the honor to meet. And his strength, you're right. For us to get assigned to him or vice versa, or however that worked, was such a blessing for us because we weren't easy to work with. You know, we knew everything, and considering the fact we'd never really worked in studios before, that's taking a lot for granted. Al knew how to take what was good in what we were doing and somehow channel it so that it was we could put it to tape, you know, without the band having a band meeting about it. You know, he was easy to work with. I'm sure we nearly drove him crazy, but I mean, he's got to be pushing 90 years old, and I think he's still producing. He's really something. Our career would have been a lot different had we not been able to work with Al Schmidt.
Um, and I wonder if you uh, there's a Man of Mystery. It's one of my favorite albums of all time is Qua,
Yeah,
and there's someone on there named Tom Hobson, and he does a couple songs on the album.
right.
And I don't know if you can just explain who he is, because those songs
Sure.
are pretty awesome as well.
So when I moved to San Francisco in '62, or to the Bay Area actually, one of the first people I met, I wasn't living in San Francisco, I was down at the University of Santa Clara, but one of the first people I met at the Coffee Gallery, which is a North Beach hangout on Grant, was Tom Hobson. He was kind of like a local hero, a little bit older than me. He was married and had kids, so there was a kitchen and coffee at his place, and he was very welcoming to me, and he was, in today's time he would have been like alt country, but I wanted to split the album with him, but his stuff was too weird for RC at the time. But all the songs he recorded came out as bonus tracks on later releases. He was just such a pure soul, and the way he did things was just so him. I mean, he was authentic in a time when it was difficult for us younger guys to consider that we were authentic, and he was just a great guy. And so to be able to do that, he's since passed away, but to be able to do that record with him, and I'm so glad that the bonus track, I mean, the all the weird Tom stuff that never made it, like the Castleford Ladies Picnic and all that kind of stuff. I mean, none of that made it on the original cut, but they did on all the bonus tracks. I mean, just a really interesting guy. For the guitar geeks out there, he had an old Gibson Country and Western, and the neck was warped, so it twisted a little bit. And so he was the only person that could play it. I mean, he learned how to adapt to it, so when he played it, it was in tune, but nobody else could do that. And I always kidded him that he left that way so he'd never have to lend his guitar to anybody.
um, so this uh, I'm gonna try to share something on the screen. This will take some editing. Oh,
Okay. Very nice.
can you see?
I can.
You were on Twitter, and you weren't a fan of this, surprisingly enough. I mean, can you just talk about this, because it was so incredibly bizarre?
You know, I do have a Twitter thing, but I don't do that myself. Somebody else does it for me.
Uh-huh.
So this is the first time that I've seen this, and and all I can say is I hope it offended him. That's funny stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
hilarious.
um,
Paul would have loved this.
yeah. Okay. You're doing so many different things, and you've had your own blog, your own
Sure.
you've been chronicling things for many
Right.
years.
Yeah.
Um, and then so the Fur Peace Ranch. If you want to explain to people exactly what that is, and what the
Sure.
status is right now.
Sure. So Vanessa and I bought this piece of property in Southeast Ohio in 1989. We have 126 some acres here, and in the middle of the 90s, we'd always thought about doing what we wound up doing, but at some point we decided to quit talking about it and actually do it. So I'm looking out my window here. We've obviously been closed for the last year because of the pandemic, but we've got, I don't know, 25 or 30 buildings. We've got cabins. We have our theater. for our radio show. We've got a kitchen. We've got all kinds of stuff. So the thing was, is that because I've been teaching off and on for so long, it seemed to make sense that we would build something so I could do this. Now my wife Vanessa was a civil engineer before we got married, and so as she's fond of pointing out, I promise anything, but she makes it happen. So she actually made this happen. We got a loan from the bank. We built all these buildings. And when I look at what we've got today, if you're ever out here, ever down here sometime, you got to let us be a good host to you. So I look at this thing that we built here. I like to fly drones. So when I fly my drone over, I go, holy cow, it's like a little city. Look at this place. And so obviously, we call it a guitar camp because I'm a guitar player and most of the people that come are guitar players, but we do other things also. And one of the things that we couldn't possibly have conceived of that sounds sappy when we talk about it in interviews is that what happens to, in my opinion, at the Fur Peach Ranch, almost more than the great instruction from our great instructors, is the musical community that it fosters, the community of like-minded spirits. And that's just so cool, It's just so cool.
And do you want to name? I know just a sampling of the people who teach there.
Well, we could just off the top of my head, we can think about like G.E. Smith, Happy Traum, Jack Cassidy, of course, Larry Campbell, Chris Smither. Gosh, over the years, Rob Ice and Trey Hensley. Um, uh, oh gosh, Tony Rice taught here. May he rest in peace. His brother Wyatt taught here. We've just had so many great people over the years. We've been so fortunate, so very fortunate.
And there's the I can't say it, Silodelic
Yeah, so
Gallery.
I'm looking out my window here at the Silo Della Gallery. Now, if anybody to see a picture of this, and they're from a farm area, they'll go, "That's not a silo; it's a grain bin." Yes, I know that, but it is a grain bin. But
You can't make them.
if you didn't know better, you'd think it's a silo. And so we have our gallery there. We have lots of really cool stuff. Vanessa does rotating exhibits, and right now we have a Ram Dass exhibit that's been up for a while. And when things start to open up more, we'll have a new exhibit. We have really cool stuff there.
And and you teach online as well. Is that true?
Yeah, since we've been, obviously socially distant in a very profound way, uh, we most of our stuff has been online. We tried some in person stuff, but with the disinfecting you have to do it was just before, especially before the vaccine, it was just couldn't do it. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of online teaching, and obviously it's not as good as being in the room with people, but there is an upside. And the upside as a teacher is when you get a room full of guitar players, you can't shut them up. I'm no better. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. With a guitar in your hands, there's no way you cannot make noises with it. You can't do it. It's impossible. So when you're doing a Zoom class, it looks like Hollywood squares. Everybody's all over the screen. So I can mute everybody except whoever I'm talking to. So that's if there's any upside, it's that.
And I believe you're vaccinated, right?
I am vaccinated. We yes, we are vaxxers in this household, and I'm hoping that my almost 15-year-old daughter will be able to get it soon too.
Yeah, she makes the occasional appearance on
She
the quarantine.
does. She does. Yeah, she deigns the grace of our stage from time to time.
Yeah, I have one shot to go. Um, and so and then you, aside from the book and album that you sell, you you sell some other things as well.
Oh, we've got more stuff than you can imagine. So yes, also on the first floor of the Silo Delic Valley Gallery is the Fur Peach Ranch Company store. We have all kinds of cool stuff. We got into the CBD business. We met this guy Robbie Bickett down in Kentucky, and and they've been doing CBD for a while. And you know, to be honest with you, it doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. Good for the hands, etc. So we've got our CBD line, we've got our coffee line, we've got our tea line. We have T-shirts, we have cool guitar, we have just all kinds of stuff. You can go to the company store online and check it out. And I will say that one of the things that's been helping to keep us afloat during these months is our traffic in the company store. We've got all kinds of new stuff coming up. So just a funny sidebar. So I wanted to take my CBD stuff on the road because you have every musician sells merchandise. That's what we do when we're out there. So we go to San Francisco. We're at the Fillmore, and we couldn't. They wouldn't let us sell CBD. I'm going. It's San Francisco. Pot's legal in San Francisco. How can that be? And the same was true in Boulder. How can you not sell CBD at a gig in Boulder? But you can't. And the reason is, as the way I look at it, they can't sell CBD products if they sell alcohol. So
Ah,
my guess is that the ABC or the local alcohol beverage control or whatever, they don't want anybody poaching on their recreational possibilities. That's a guess. I don't know. Anyway, to think that you can't sell CBD at the Fillmore is ridiculous. But that's the way it is.
uh, and I just wanted to when you just mentioned yeah, how it's good for your hands and everything. So watching you play on the quarantine, the yeah, your playing is at least as good as ever, if not better than ever. It's the
Oh,
there's a
thanks.
delicacy. There's something. I mean, as I said, the first time I saw you with those 4 hour shows, mostly
Right.
electric, some acoustic, and I was wondering, what do you do to keep in shape and so on?
Well, I'm inclined to think actually, I think that I played better than I did then. I guess it's a matter of perspective. I mean, whatever you're looking for. I think I'm more articulate than I used to be. One of the things that, as a teacher that occasionally deals with older guys, I mean, you just got to be careful with your hands. My technique is much more relaxed than it was when I was younger. Um, I think that helps me out a lot. The other thing is, I think that at this point, especially with the quarantine shows, have really helped me focus on a lot of stuff. And I think that what I'm focusing on, I'm able to really focus on tone a lot. We don't plug in at all. Our quarantine shows are just the microphone, and there's nobody in the room, so we can do that. I've convinced myself there's an audience there, so I feel like I'm playing to a live audience. But in terms of what I mean as a guitar player, I don't like monitors. When you play out, sometimes you need them because that's life. But I like listening to the room, and we do have a PA, so I'm in the room a little bit there. But so what I'm playing to is the sound of a really good sounding room, and I can really focus on my relationship between me, the guitar, and the sonic environment, if that makes any sense at all. And I think that's really been an education to me over this past year.
And looking to the future, as I said, you booked a few shows, including one at Tupelo in New Hampshire. And I think, if I remember, I looked it up. I think it's one of those shows where there's a parking lot and you play that way.
Yeah, we did a Tupelo show last year. They really did it right. They got in the game early, and they because their venue's beautiful. But you're right, it's a parking lot show. I mean, I did two shows there. The first show was like a cruise in. They were cool old hot rods and all kinds of stuff. And they had, I forget how many shows they did. They'd already done over 100 shows, so they got into the game early. They were doing it right. Great sound system, great PA. I will say that the show that I did there was the last show that they're doing of the year, and it was getting a little bit chilly at the end of the late show.
And and I believe you mentioned on the quarantine concerts that you have another album coming out or in the works.
Yeah, no. So Johnny and I, we have a part one and part two for the River Flows, and I believe it's coming out in record store day. I should know this. If Johnny was here, he'd know. I think it's in July. So there's a second volume uh, uh, for the sessions that Johnny and I did. So we're pretty excited about that.
And will it be splattered vinyl, red splattered vinyl again, or
It
is
will
there
be. It's a different colored splattered vinyl. Yeah, the Culture Factory guys. I mean, really, it's been so much fun working with them because they absolutely went to the ends of the earth to make this such a quality project. Um, yeah, so splattered vinyl. Yes, I'm not going to tell you what color it is. It's going to be different. It's going to be different.
the big unveiling
Yeah, the
when it
big
comes to rock and
unveiling,
roll?
right?
All right. Well, Yarma, I've been wanting to talk to you for decades, ever since I first heard your stuff in the early '70s, and I just want to thank you for spending this time and telling these stories, and just want to wish you the best, and I hope I get to see you soon.
Well, thank you. Back at you. Where are you physically right now?
Massachusetts.
So we've got a couple Massachusetts gigs coming up. What's I'm trying to think of the theater we do in Boston. It's not the big one; it's a smaller theater. We've done it a bunch of times.
I
I
remember I
can't.
say, I'm trying to think because I've seen you at the Paradise, and I've seen you at
The old Paradise, right?
the old um, House of Blues, which isn't even there anymore.
Yeah.
Um, uh, hmm. Is it announced, this show
Well, I'll
in
tell you
Boston?
what. If you don't go away, oh no, I turned my phone off so I wouldn't make noise. We're coming within the next
Okay.
couple of months.
Well,
Within
if
the
you
next
want to,
couple
if
of months.
someone can let me know, I can add it to the blog thing that goes with this. And
Absolutely. If you get a chance, please stop by. You can either get in touch with me or Cash, and we would love to have you as our guest.
oh man, that'd be awesome. Um, and I won't have to wait from 3 in the afternoon, like at Comac.
No, and you won't have to walk across broken glass to get to your car. Suffolk
um,
County Forum, stuff of dreams.
um, and I think I may have seen the Harlem Globetrotters there when I was a kid or
Oh,
something.
I would be surprised if you didn't. What if
Um,
I wonder I wonder if it even still exists? Who knows?
um, all right. Well, thank you again. Thank you once again. It's been an honor to talk to
Well,
you,
well, thanks,
and
my friend.
hopefully our paths will cross in the future.
I'm sure they will. Stay well.
All right. Take care. Bye
You too. I am out of here.
bye.